Welcome to the Real Secrets of Magic podcast, the show that celebrates possibilities and reveals the practices that you can use to create them. On today's program, I welcome former professional football player and current strength and conditioning coach for the Hamilton Tiger Cats Football Club, Mr. Isaac Brown. Isaac, also known as Ike, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for taking time to join me today, man.
Appreciate you having me, brother.
As listeners and watchers of the show will know by now, this program is all about connecting with people who are making magic. Not necessarily magicians doing tricks, of course, but people that are creating possibilities. And Ike, I think your work is fascinating for a lot of people out there who are interested in pro sports. You've sort of walked the walk and talked the talk a bit. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do now? What's the magic you're making on a regular basis?
Right now, I'm training pro athletes and training people. And it's something that I've been doing for the last 8 years straight. And I was doing it, when I was playing pro ball, I was doing it as a player for about 2 years. So 10 years total. Wow. But it's been a development type thing. I didn't always think I would be doing what I'm doing now. I thought I would be playing the game for longer, right? But things changed. It was more submission to God and what He wanted me to do, and that is, I guess instead of using the word magic, I think for me it's more submission, and just giving up what I wanted, you know what I mean? And sometimes you can't explain that, and magic is stuff people can't explain, right? So
absolutely,
the submission part it's hard to explain, but when I just sat back and let God lead, this is where He led me. So I'm happy.
Sweet, man.
So
yeah,
it's all. Yeah.
Well, so you played football, and you're not from Canada originally. You now live here with us up in Hamilton, but tell us about what was it like in high school for you if you had this pro ball mindset?
So in high school, I had me and my brother, my brother just above me. I have 3 brothers, 3 sisters, but the brother closest to me in age, his name is Jake. We actually played high school ball together and we played college ball together. So in high school, it was a great experience because I had him there, and he was, I kind of followed in his footsteps, tried to learn from some of his mistakes, and some of them I made the same ones. But my high school experience was amazing, because it was, my family was at every game, and that's the most memorable thing for me. My family, the support, and I'm not just talking about my parents. I mean everyone. They were at every game, right?
That's amazing.
And it's a small city, it's a small town, but their support was so strong, and that continued into college. When I went and followed my brother to Central Michigan, and we played college ball together, and he left, went on and tried the NFL, didn't happen. Same thing happened with me. I tried the NFL, it didn't happen. Then I ended up here in Canada. But to answer your question, the high school experience, it was awesome, mainly because of my family. And when you play high school ball, you're playing ball with people you grew up with all your life, right?
Yeah.
And it was tough. I was trying to get into the big colleges. I wanted to get into Michigan or Ohio State or Florida State, who I grew up loving, but the academic part was the part I kind of overlooked. and they didn't pick me as the athlete they wanted, but
right,
I ended up where I was supposed to be, so that's all good.
Yeah, I love that. The you are where you need to be at all times kind of mentality is totally a healthy and productive way to think about things, for sure. You can stress the rest of your days away thinking you're not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, you got to be grateful.
And so, yeah, having that kind of background in football, that sort of, sense of familiarity. I mean it like your family was there. This is like such a
Mhm.
major part of your life. You get to college, you try out the NFL, you end up here in Canada. Did you play in the CFL?
Yeah, I played in the CFL 4 years, so from 2009 to, well, 2009, 10, 11, and 12, and then 2013, that's when I was let go. But that shot me out to launch my coaching career.
T-
So it was, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
And so, yeah, tell us about that, like that making that shift, and what was that like?
Mhm,
Because I know, and I've said this on this podcast before, everybody who has found some success or made some magic has a
mhm,
story or has a moment where it was almost hopeless, or like where
mhm.
they felt failure, or they felt like that, there was no, they'd reached the end in some way. And it's always the beginning that follows the end of something, right?
That's
And
right.
so maybe you could tell us a bit about that emotionally, and what was that like getting cut from the team and having to pivot?
Yeah, it was very tough for me. I wanna say ego-wise,
Hmm.
first of all, because, coming out of college, back up a little bit. Coming out of college, you go to the NFL, and first of all, I wasn't drafted, right? I signed as a free agent, and I felt like I should have been drafted, wasn't drafted. Then I get there. I went to the Falcons.
Hmm.
Then I get there, I get injured, and then it's it. That's over,
Hmm.
right? So I went back to college, finished my degree, which I didn't finish before I went to the Falcons. So I went back and finished my degree. And then I was kind of at the point where I'm like, okay, what do I do now? You know? And I was getting tired of working out every single day, hoping that another team would call me.
Hmm.
And no team called me. And then finally in March, it was the same time as, spring break was coming. So I decided to go to Vegas with a couple of my former college teammates, but I was back there. So I'm like, all right, let's go to Vegas because I need a break and I'm tired. And it was in Vegas that I got the call to come play for the Ticats.
No kidding.
So I come up, yeah, yeah. So it was crazy,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like right at the end of your rope
Hmm.
when you're ready to throw your hands up. That's when it's given to you, your next opportunity,
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I came here. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna dominate this league. I'm gonna dominate. And the games now in 4 seasons, I only played a total, I think, of 18 games.
Oh, wow.
You play 18 games in one season,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Now, one reason was, my first year, I was on and off the practice squad.
Mm.
And then my third year, I missed the entire year because of the injury, tore my ACL.
Oof.
And then my fourth year, I missed 3 quarters of the season because I tore my quad. And my second year is when I played the most. So most of those games happened in my second year. And that year was promising, and then the next year was down the drain.
Mm.
So my career obviously didn't go the way I wanted it to go. It was riddled with injuries and
Mm.
just not what I planned. So that's what I mean when I got cut in January 2013. It was a
Mm.
kick in my ego because I'm like, I did this thing for 4 years, but I did not do it how I wanted to. I
Mm.
feel unaccomplished. I feel like I didn't accomplish anything.
Mm.
I never really got a chance, but it was time to let that go.
Right.
So I actually ended up making a list of goals December 2012. I made a
Mm.
list of goals, which I had never. I don't think I've ever written down goals and been serious about them. You
Mm.
know, and one of those goals was that I wanted to work in strength and conditioning with a major sports team.
Hmm.
That was the goal, right? So, and this was actually on the 31st. It was on New Year's Eve that I made this.
Wow.
And then, less than 2 weeks later, I get cut from the Ticats, right? And
Right.
then check this. Then a month and a half later, I get the call to go to the University of Tennessee and be an assistant strength coach with
Huh.
their football team. Now that's a major sports team, right?
Totally. Totally.
So, I set the goal out there and I had to get cut. I had to leave what I thought was my dream and go into something else that was actually my gift and my calling and my purpose, right?
Yeah.
So I had to humble myself and I had to submit, and I didn't try to keep playing in the CFL. When I
Mm.
got cut, I was like, okay, this chapter is closed. I felt good about it, but at the same time, my ego said, well, you didn't really do anything in the league. You didn't prove anything. I
Mm.
had to I had to humble myself at that moment and just
Yeah.
let it
Yeah.
go, And once I let it go, God stepped in and said, here's Tennessee. Boom.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's really powerful because
Mhm.
one of the things, that I remember being taught, maybe not explicitly, but implicitly, is like
Mhm.
with hard work, you can accomplish anything. And it's not untrue, right? It's not like hard
Yes.
work is necessary to create, and often even when you're up against a wall, there's a way to create possibilities, but it's
Right.
not always going to look like how you maybe imagine it. That's the
Right.
thing. So I
Right.
can imagine the sense of frustration. Like for my own sake, for years I thought I was going to be a doctor. Somebody told
Right.
me I would make a good doctor, and my last name's Love. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, sweet, that's what I'll do. Right. But
Right.
and I for like 5 years of my life I dedicated thinking this was a good fit for me. And then I
Mhm.
didn't get into med school, and I felt so. I remember the moment when I opened up the thin letter, like it was
Mhm.
yesterday, because it was such a momentous occasion where I just
Yeah.
felt like all the last 5 years of my life are wasted. I didn't do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
But at the same time, it was a crack in my perceptions. And then I was like, for the first time, I'm allowed to ask, like, what am I actually interested in? Right? What do I
Yes.
actually want to
That's
do?
right. Yeah.
And then doors started to open. So
That's
I,
right.
I love that you say, it's not about having necessarily the answer. It's about being open to the opportunities.
That's right.
So great, man. That's not a common story in our culture. I think we
Mhm.
want to have answers. There's a lot of like the
Yeah.
need to know, and I think it holds us back a bunch. But
Yeah.
so this is really cool. So now you strengthen and conditioning for. You've gotten to Tennessee with the Volunteers.
Mhm.
Somehow you end up making it all the way back up to the team that started you off in the CFL.
That's right.
When does that happen?
So this is how that happened. So we so I was there at Tennessee for 5 years, okay? And we did well. It was kind of like a roller coaster. We took off a little rough. We hit a peak. We did well, and then we went back down.
Mm,
In college football, there's just not a lot of tolerance for that when
mm,
you're demanded, especially in the SEC. They
mm,
call the SEC conference an extension of the NFL, so it's very
mm.
competitive.
Yeah.
And we had a rough year, really rough year in 2017. So they decided to fire us.
Mm,
And when the head coach gets fired, everybody's gone with them, right?
right.
So that was another turning point for me though, because I again, you know, I didn't know what was next.
Mm,
I loved my time at Tennessee, and once that ended, I went into, I got fired in February, and I didn't get called for this job until June, the end
mm,
of June, right? So I was unemployed for all those months, and I'm just thinking, what's next?
mm,
Is there something completely different I'm supposed to be doing, or will I get another call? Will I get another job? Kind of the same thing when I got cut from the Falcons. It's like waiting for a call.
right.
And I started to be proactive, and I'm like, you know what? I want to go back to Canada because my daughter is here. I have an opportunity to really be there for her more
Mm,
than I have been. So I'm going to start looking and applying. And I started looking at gyms, like tons of Good Life gyms. I promise you, I may have applied to every Good Life gym from Hamilton to Toronto.
Okay.
And, you
That's
know, and
awesome.
even the ones out near Ottawa where she lives.
Okay.
And every time, you know, they wanted me, right? And there was all other small gyms and they wanted me. But the two questions that I had to answer no to was, do you live in the country and do you have a valid work permit?
Mm,
And the answer to both those questions were no. And therefore the door was shut,
mm,
right? So then I finally just said, you know what? I'm not gonna force this.
mm,
I'm just gonna figure it out and let God do his work. You know, I'm just
mm.
gonna sit back. And when I did that, you know, 3 weeks later, I got the call. And and it was so weird because so the current strength coach that was here in Hamilton, me and him basically wanted to switch places
Mm,
because he was from Arizona and his family was there and he wanted to get back to Arizona with his family and he got a job at the University of Arizona to go be a strength coach there. So he wanted to leave here and go back to university football with his family.
mm,
And I just left university football and I wanted to come back up here to be
mhm.
with my family, right? So
Okay.
it worked out so perfectly. It
Huh.
worked out so perfectly. And and that was July 1st is when I officially signed my contract and I've been here ever since.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how
So
that happened.
that's amazing, man. I think
Yeah,
this theme of letting go, surrendering,
that's it.
submitting, it's
That's it.
not I really enjoy that as a tip. Like it because
Hmm.
it's not easy to do either.
No.
It is something that takes practice. And I
Hmm.
haven't been really talking so much about this pandemic we're in, which, we are, and I think everybody's sort of tired of talking about it. But
Hmm.
I wonder if, given your experiences with pivoting, with having
Yeah.
things kind of ripped away, certainly the
Hmm.
CFL was shut down as a result of
That's
COVID-19.
right.
I don't know much about the business side of things, but I know that they're not in a great position now.
Hmm.
There's a lot depends on season by season in that league.
Right.
So certainly your job came under maybe fire
Yeah.
a little bit. And
Yeah.
I wonder,
Everyone's. Yeah.
did you feel equipped to deal with
Hmm.
circumstances when everything hit, like given
Hmm.
your experiences having to pivot, or was it just as tumultuous a time for you as for everybody else?
No, to be honest with you, I have not struggled at all
Hmm,
with the quarantine or anything.
hmm,
And here's why. Like a plain and simple, all of my trust is in God,
hmm,
right? I don't worry about a single thing
hmm,
because I know his track record with me.
hmm,
And that's first of all, you know, all I got to do is take a look back. And that's the reason I journal so much and I write so much is because I like to remind myself what God has done for me
hmm,
in my life, you know. So when this happened, you know, things did change for me. You know, they shut our facility down, our season got canceled, you know, had to take a pay cut at work. All
hmm,
these things happen, but I never flinch
hmm,
because, you know, I know who holds my life and my future, right?
hmm,
So I'm
hmm,
not worried about it. And what I did was just adjust and do what I can do, you know. So I had to start doing home programs with my players, and I had to, you know, I had a couple personal training clients, and I had to find another place to train them. So I started training people out of my garage a little bit.
That's
And you
awesome.
know, just you just gotta go with what you have, you know,
Hmm,
and
hmm,
that's what I had. So I didn't worry at all with the quarantine and through it I've learned so much more about myself because obviously along with everyone else, you get more I can't say everyone gets more alone time because some people have families, house full, but me, I live alone, right? So I
Mhm.
got even more alone time with myself, and I started reading. I started writing even more, and
Mm.
just started creating new ideas and new possibilities and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So I used this time. I took advantage of it because it kind of was a flashback of my unemployment back in 2018. It was a
Mhm.
little flashback of, okay, I'm not going to work. What do I do
Right.
now? You know?
Right. Yeah.
So I kind of took that time and I made the best use of it I could. So
So that's great, dude. It's yeah, congrats. And one of the things I like to talk about, or I've learned from magic that I think is
mhm,
undervalued, is trust. You know,
yeah.
as a magician, trust is how we learn
hmm
magic, right? It's a game
hmm
of secret keeping. Trust is also super important in performance. I've got to trust the
Yeah.
audience in so many ways. I've got to trust myself, and I've got to trust the process. I've got to trust that when I put effort into whatever I'm practicing, if it doesn't yield results right away, that it will, if I just
Yeah.
keep leaning in.
mm,
You mentioned trust in God and trust in that your path, is sort of out of your hands, as long as you're open to the opportunities of making the best you can with what you've got. That's sort of
Yeah.
how to paraphrase you a little bit there.
Yeah.
If you had to give, so the goal of the podcast again is to get to that real secret. And we've sort
Right.
of touched on a bunch of really valuable stuff, I think. But if you were
Yeah.
giving somebody advice,
hmm
or empowering somebody with a practice that
hmm
they could do on a regular basis that would help them, like it's helped you make magic, what would that
hmm
secret be? What's the little nugget of wisdom that
hmm
you think people would benefit from?
Oh, I would say number one, submit and trust in God. And
Hmm.
and if you're a person that doesn't believe in God, submit and trust in whatever it is you want to submit and trust to. But it's more about letting go.
Hmm.
Let go of what you want,
Hmm.
because I've learned that, what I want is not always what's best, right? Because I'll put it this way. I believe we were all put on this earth to serve a purpose
Hmm.
that benefits humanity, that benefits other people, right? And oftentimes, some of our biggest dreams are just for us. They're only
Hmm.
for us. My biggest dream, which was to be a pro football player, that didn't benefit nobody but me,
Hmm.
right? And when I let that go, I was put in a position where I benefit a lot of other people,
Hmm.
right? A lot of other people.
Hmm.
So I would say look for your gift,
Hmm.
because your gift is what is going to benefit other people. Your gift is like your lamp,
Hmm.
and your lamp doesn't just provide light for you, it
Hmm.
provides light for everyone around you,
Hmm.
right? So look for your lamp, whatever that gift is. And I said it the other day, your gift is comes from inside of you. And that's why when you operate in it, you feel so fulfilled,
Hmm.
because it's from the inside, right? So look for your lamp, look for your gift.
Beautiful. I love that metaphor, man. It's instead of looking for what we want, let's look for how we can serve, how we
That's
can
it.
give, and that is in itself the most fulfilling maybe
And
work we
you'll
can
never go
do.
wrong. You'll
Yeah.
never go wrong when you're
Right.
when you're giving or serving other people.
Beautiful,
Never.
beautiful stuff, my man. That's why I knew I needed to have you on this podcast. I
I
hope,
appreciate
for
that.
it's these soft skills, there are things that we can all do that will take us places I think we just don't see yet. And so I hope people listening to this will
hmm
trust the wise words of Isaac Brown and put more
hmm
trust in your path, and maybe let go, and we'll see what this world can look like. Ike, I got to say, thanks so much for, again, carving time out of your busy schedule and sharing some of your story and secrets with us. I know I'm grateful, and it's so great just to hang out for a little bit and catch up too. So yeah, thanks for your time, man. And I look forward to the next time we can connect.
Definitely, man. I look forward to it too.
Thanks for tuning into the program. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at BrandonLoveMagic for more possibilities. And if you really liked the show, feel free to share this with a friend, or even give us a review on Spotify or iTunes. We'll see you next time.